Welcome. I am Snoopy Joker, and on today's episode, we are doing one of my main tanks that I like to play, Groot. Now, Groot is one of the three tanks I mainly choose. The other two are, of course, Strange and Magneto, but I have grown fond of Groot in my lineup, and I love playing him when there's another Strange or Magneto or another good tank alongside me. Now, before we go into some helpful tips and tricks that I've learned playing Groot, let's go over his main abilities. 1. He's kind of a ranged melee character, and what I mean by that is when you throw a punch with Groot, you see branches come out of his arm, so he's kind of like an extension of himself. It doesn't go far, you kind of have to be close to get it done, but it's like a ranged melee attack, like an arm extension of a punch. And you can do this up to 8 times before Groot has to reload his branches. His second ability is his walls. He has 2 different walls. One is called the Iron Wall, and you can only put out 1 at a time. And this wall, if yourself as Groot or allies do damage to the enemy while you are near this wall, it adds health to Groot. Now Groot starts at 850 of health. He's one of the larger tanks health pool. However, it can go all the way up to 1100, which to me is pretty insane and good to have when you're deep in the battle and need that extra health boost. Because if it starts to go down and you're near that tree and you do damage again, or your allies do damage, it'll increase your health continuously. Great wall to have. Now, the other wall is what I call, I don't know the exact name, but I like to call it my attack and defensive wall. You can put up 3 of them, 2 right away, and the third one has to wait for a cooldown. And these walls can block damage, a small amount of damage, but also do attacks when awakened. So when they are awakened and they're not taken down, if an enemy is near them, it will start to pull out vines and do damage to the enemy, along with you doing damage to them as well. It's kind of like an extra attack boost to Groot. His next ability is his Spore Grenade. This can be thrown out like any type of grenade, and when it hits and explodes, it does damage and then breaks apart to do kind of like a small area effect of little spores that do damage to the enemy. His ultimate is roots coming up from the ground to pull in enemies from around the surrounding area, bring them into the center, do damage, but also allow you to do damage to the enemy while they're stuck in place. And then one of his kind of passive abilities is if you have Rocket, I was going to say Groot, if you have Rocket or Jeffrey, they can sit on your shoulder to take a damage reduction. Now this is good for Groot as well because those 2 are both healers, which means you're getting healed while they're taking a reduction, so you can keep going into the fight for as long as need be. Now, tips and tricks. 1. Groot is not a solo tank. As much as I'd love Groot to be a solo tank, his walls can only do so much, and if you're not using them well, or if you're not standing around your walls, you're going to go down quickly. If you don't have a good healer, or if you don't have Rocket or Jeffrey on your shoulder, you're going to go down quickly. He's a great support tank in that he can cut off enemy lines and put a wedge between the enemies quickly. 2. His Iron Wall. His Iron Wall is one of his key walls to be put up, and you want to try and stay as close to it as possible because of the health boost it will give you. You also want to put it in a spot where it's not going to be noticed or taken down as quickly. Now, I'm not saying you don't have to use it as a defensive wall. You can put it up to try and block damage, but you're going to try and want to put it in areas like I did there to gain that bonus effect for Groot. The other wall, which I call the attack and defensive wall, you can use for either or. I try to set it up as a trap for the enemy. Yes, I've used it to split off the enemy. Yes, I've used it to block damage when I need to get away. But I like to try and use it where if the enemy is attacking me, or if the enemy is in front of me, I try to put it behind them to kind of block them from leaving, but also get that extra attack damage. What you saw in this gameplay where I blocked off a Hawkeye and a Cloak and Dagger, they didn't take the walls down, they backed up into them, so while I was attacking them, the trees or vines were attacking the enemy players. So use those either way. I like to use them offensively as much as possible, set up traps. There's one where you could set up by a door, where if a enemy comes through and you're attacking him, your wall's attacking them as well. There's a part in this gameplay here where a Captain America comes at me and I use my best to kind of run around him, but at the same time use those walls to get that extra damage because Captain America is one of my weaknesses when playing Groot. His Spore Grenade is great. I've had some great clips of throwing it. I don't use it as often, but it is good for when you want to throw it at a distance to get that little extra damage. His ult is one of probably my favorite ults to do. The problem is you want to try and use it when you have 2 or more enemies in that vicinity. I've used it sometimes when there's only one player because I'm either angry or they're annoying me and I just want to get them out of my hair, so I'll use it. But use it when there's 2 or more. And when you use it, and this is what I learned from one of the top players in the game, try and put up one of your smaller walls, the attack defend walls, behind them, behind the characters that are stuck, to get that extra damage. Yes, sometimes it doesn't work as well because it fails due to if they have a healer that gets stuck or their healer's behind them. But you want to use it to keep the enemy in place, put up one of your attack walls, or use it with another ally that has an ability that needs characters to be stationary, like Jeffrey here, that likes to swallow up characters, or like Moon Knight, that brings down the hands from his god to take down enemies. Try and coordinate with your teammates. If you're not coordinating, try and use it with one of your walls to get that extra damage. Now, one of my weaknesses with Groot is flyers. Like the flyer in this gameplay, the Human Torch, Iron Man, which is the bane of my existence. Even though I love playing Iron Man, he's another one that can be very cruel. But Groot himself doesn't do a lot of damage with his melee attack, so you want to rely on that extra damage you get from your walls, but also your iron wall that gives you health boosts to stay in the battle longer. I've had many fun battles with a Thor, many fun battles with Cap like you saw here, where if you use your walls correctly and you have great healers, you can stay in the battle long enough to deflect the enemy and keep them away from the spawn or attacking your allies. Like I said, Groot is not a solo tank. You need help from another tank to keep the battle going. Or you need a Jeffrey and Rocket Raccoon to keep you healed, to be that solo tank, to keep the damage going, to get the enemy, to take down the enemy or keep them off the point. I love Groot. He can be very good as a tank, especially with his walls. He can deflect the enemy, he can divide the enemy. I've seen him divide the enemy from healers. He can stop healing from behind his walls. He is a great tank, and I love that he's part of my arsenal along with Strange and Magneto. It definitely gives a unique play style to the other two. So tell me what you think of Groot. Tell me if you're a main Groot. Do you like Groot? Do you play Groot? Do you hate Groot? Why do you hate Groot? Let's have a conversation in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts. Sub for more content to help me grow. Like the video so YouTube likes me. I appreciate all the love and support. I appreciate all the comments, the likes and subs we've gotten so far, and I want to keep growing. Thank you all. I appreciate you, and I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you on the next one.